think we're talking enough that we should put it in a podcast again. And then you got the camera, and here we are.
We were some fresh-faced boys.
Yes.
And
You didn't have the
more
curls.
hair on my beard and none of it on my head.
It felt like an adventure.
I can hear the music playing in my head.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of The X Button. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the torn from this dimension Titan.
Paul, hey everybody, how's it going?
I'm doing good. We're like trying something really stupid right now, but how's life, Paul?
It's going well, and honestly, I don't care how it reacts. The fact that I don't have to have this light on my poor eyes is already making this worth it.
Oh, yes. So, we're basically also a happy final day of August. By the time this episode goes live, it'll be September. Can you believe that?
I'm so ready for August to be done. I'm just, for the weather alone, it just means we're one step closer to possibly getting some cool weather in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And it's probably only going to get hotter for you, isn't it? Is that how that works?
No. If there's a cold front from the north, that cold front eventually makes its way south. So, our like cooler weather, it's similar. It's at a similar time as in North America. The only difference is that I don't get snow or I don't get a fall, but it's all contingent of those cold fronts. Around October, November, and December, that's when we get the winds, and that's when I love it.
So the colder it gets for me, the colder it'll get for you, basically.
Exactly. Yes.
All right, I'll try not to take all the cold for myself.
Oh yeah, especially with your 6'5" voluminous self. But
they just stick me up into the stratosphere, and I block most of it for the southern hemisphere. I'm basically why climate change is happening.
Oh yes, but enough of that foolishness, because we got a packed week of news ahead of us, and a few games that we needed to talk about. Yeah, this is the X Button Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Thursday from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available on the YouTube channel Escape Media, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-media. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So, Paul, hit me. What have you been playing? Actually, we have been playing mostly the same similar games.
I was gonna get the other ones that we didn't share
get those out. Yeah, get those out of the way.
We briefly mentioned it in the Reacts episodes, and I think last week where we focused so much on like opening night live and stuff. But I finished Horizon Forbidden West, and that was a treat. I'm really glad I finally sat down and powered through that. I had a long weekend where my wife was out of town, so I just got to really sit down. And
now, real quick, you had already told us that you'd beaten it. Have you been doing the side stuff? Okay.
I haven't yet. I was just wanting to be a little more detailed from what I said last week, so just to say how much enjoyment I had out of that, and how I really hope they continue the knocking it out of the park with what they're doing. It took me most of the story, but I finally got into a lot of the side characters, especially certain ones. Obviously no spoilers for it, that not everybody makes it out of the story alive, and that made it alone a lot more interesting to see how everybody reacted to the grief, and especially that super quiet moment with two separate characters out on a cliff face. I don't know if you remember. That actually brought a tear to my eye, because I was remembering like people that I've lost and how they were kind of saying it in just vague enough terms that I could apply it to my own life, and I was like, oh, this makes me feel things. Why am I feeling things? So that was just great. And then it also had bombastic action, great stuff. I unlocked a ton of weapons. It was a good time. After that, taking our expectations down a notch, was Midnight Fight Express. We basically the great value poor man's Sifu, more or less. It's $20 on PSN, or for Game Pass it's free. And that was an experience for sure. I love the concept. I love the idea of it. It's basically mixing Hotline Miami and Sifu, obviously, with this jump into a bunch of people, you get combos and attacks, counters, whatever, knock it out. But it also had a lot of clunkiness, a lot of lack of polish, and it was all right. And it has like 40 missions. which I thought was like, oh great, I get so much content. And now it's like you're kind of spamming the same moves to get through certain enemies, and I'm like, oh, this isn't as fun as I thought it was.
Yeah.
So I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to revisit it, but I'm glad that I played it, and I'm glad it exists. Next, moving on, did you want to talk about Destiny a little more?
Yes. Yeah, let's just talk about that, because we was it Monday? We finally you beat half of King's Fall. I beat King's Fall.
That seems to be the process for me. I joined, my first experience with a raid is like while y'all are halfway through it and need help, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's see what happens. And honestly, I mean, I did enjoy myself. I know we had a lot of struggles, especially near the end, but it wasn't as bad as my Vow the Disciple experience at all. That it was a lot, but it was simpler and more enjoyable overall. I got to play with some new weapons that I've been playing around with, and it felt great to be unkillable and high-end content.
Yeah, that was nuts. It was like whenever we were trying to wipe, because I was also playing as a Titan.
Yeah,
that high resilience Solar 3.0 Titan just refuses to die, especially if you're wearing Lorelei.
And it felt so good to be like, the few times where I want to die and realizing just how powerful that specific build is for the Titan makes me feel really great. And that's one of the main reasons why I keep coming back to Destiny 2, is the weird builds that make you just this walking nuke that wipes out everything. And I love that. So yeah, that's done. I got a bunch of really good guns out of the first time that we did it. Usually it's like you get a bunch of spoils of conquest, which is like that weird currency, but no actual weapon drops. But I left that with a pulse rifle, 2 machine guns, 2 hand cannons, and I think that was actually it, now that I think about it. But yeah, just still, the fact that I got half of the available weapons was really great.
Yeah, I got out of it 2 armor pieces, and the pulse rifle, the sniper, and the scout rifle, all with Firefly.
Which is amazing that you got those rolls. I've been doing some research on all those details, and I really want the scout rifle and the sniper rifle now, because I love those details, and I really like the low zoom on that sniper rifle.
Yeah, that it's so good, because usually there's not many good sniper rifles in Destiny 2, like they were in Destiny 1, especially with when it comes to the actual scopes.
There's just so many other options now. Back in Destiny 1, that was like your only big damage tool, really.
Yeah, because the double primary system that allows you to have double primaries that people hated originally in year 1, but then when they were like,
I hated it too. I was like, oh, what is the point of all this? And now
it was because the sniper. Because why would you put in the same slot snipers, shotguns, rockets, grenade launchers? Because all of that was in the power slot, so it didn't make any sense. The double primaries was like, some people wanted the idea of like, I want to have an auto rifle and a pulse rifle at the same time. So Bungie kind of tuned it that way, especially because most of the PvP crowd was asking for that. But then ever since they were like, you know what, we're doing a hybrid. If you want to have like a sniper in your middle slot and then like a normal primary under your power, you can do that, or you can stay with the double primary. So it just made it just widened the options, but it's made wanting to main on a sniper less viable, especially when with the champion system that we have going, that it's rare for snipers to get a anti-barrier like they are this season that makes them actually viable. Why would you run non-mod weapons in a season? So,
which I'm appreciating more the fact that they kind of force you to change your rotation of weapons. I used to be kind of mad at that, but now I'm like, oh, I appreciate that they kind of incentivize you rather than try to like nerf something.
As long as like it feels like the switch ups make sense. I remembered one season, it was season 10, the season of the Worthy, the one from the pandemic. Anti-barrier was sidearms. So it's like there are times where there has been like weapon switches that just don't make any sense and makes the meta very, very annoying. So I
think they revisited sidearm barrier. It was sidearm something last season, but
anti-barrier last season. Yeah,
they had other options, so it didn't really matter as much.
At that point, we had the Forerunner exotic that is a sidearm with an actual scope that can hit from far out if you're wanting to use it. So, last week was an ordeal for me with Destiny because I did the day 1 raid. I did the day 1 race, and I streamed it for like 5 hours, and I tell you, never in my life I'm ever doing that again, especially if we're taking in noobs, because day one races with the modifier are not the ones that you want to take in people that are 36 hours without sleep or bringing in weapons that you don't go into high-end content with, like enemies that hit 20% harder with a scout rifle. I'm sorry, you don't. And it took a lot of willpower. I was like venting in our chat, but man, I wanted to just like cuss people out of the sheer incompetence there. And
what's for the listeners, what would you say the ratio is for the people that you really needed to babysit? Was it just one person, or was there like a group?
Half. Yeah.
You see, that's
a problem. Yeah, that's a problem where it's a day one race with like that extra thing. Is like races, you want to do them with a team that you know you play really well with, because those are the teams that go in because it's the raid race.
Yeah.
Afterwards, bring in all the noobs, because that's when you're learning together, which is what we did the day after with one of our clan admins, Spartan, that we brought in. Is really cool. Like with him, it's like I get good rapport to be able to like teach something, and he is always kind of like keeping a good vibe out of it. So that helped a lot. But yeah, it was like I did that day one race on Friday, then I did half the raid on Saturday. We stopped at Golgoroth, the big ogre, and then on Monday we picked up, and that's when you joined in to be able to do that. And I'm reminded why King's Fall is like considered one of the best raids they've ever done, but also why it's like the one with the least completion rates, or as like farmable, because it's long, because it's an absolute like it is an actual raid. It's as close to an MMO raid as it gets, because of you traveling through this ship. It feels like you're a squad traveling through like a warship, making your way to the king, and having to be stonewalled by the different bosses. And it feels cool getting through that progression. I hope you get to experience the War Priest. When we finally nailed him on Saturday, that was so satisfying, because he requires millions and millions and millions of health damage. And good thing that I got rewarded well with the weapons, because I kind of want to do it again now. And I think later today we may have it run. Who knows? But I'm glad that you got a completion in the first week, even though it was just halfway through.
Oh, and I'll take it.
And past your midnight and me cussing you out for not understanding what a bonk is, after I had already told you what a bonk was.
You see, because when you say it, it sounds like bunk. And through the microphone and all the chaos, I was like, what are you talking about? So I wasn't connecting it in the middle of everything else. And I was just like, all right, listen, Mr. Man.
Yeah. No, because I was like, you're a Titan, use your hammer, use your effing hammer, because you gotta get close. Because we were like at that because we were at that final boss damage phase that we needed to kind of like stun. But I was like, I had already killed and triggered my bomb, and you had not even killed the ogre, when I was like, you can get close, you don't have to wait.
See, I was trying to. The problem is my Arbalest, like the charge for it, is slow enough, and the ogre would turn his head enough that I wasn't getting crit damage, so it was taking too long for me to kill it. And after that, I just forwent the Arbalest for a quicker weapon, and that's why we were able to get through that.
Yeah, and that one it was because when we were in the damage phases, yes, don't bonk him, because in case you're super close and then the bomb is there and it triggers her, that happened to me. Right. In that final space, when we needed to trigger those bombs as quick as possible to extend the final damage phase, that's where I was like, just get up close and personal and just smash that hammer to like get him quick. So
yeah, I mean, as we've established, whenever there's a lot going on, I freeze up, because I don't really understand what's going on. It's only through the repetition of it that I actually grasp it.
What I did find funny though is that in that run that we actually beat that raid, your phone died.
Yep, and I was deaf like the entire time.
Yes, and until I enabled the mic from the PS5 controller. Yeah, and I was like,
at least you could kind of telephone it through to me.
Yeah, when you died, everyone said it's a wipe, and I was like, and I told them it may be, but I think he gets it. And then as soon as like you got torn into like the different dimension, you were in position. I was like, he's in position, he gets it. So
yep. which I'm really glad that ended up working out. It's one of those things where, like, when the chips are down and there's all the desperation, when you pull out that weird competence in like a really difficult part of Dark Souls or Elden Ring or whatever, and then you're like, that one shouldn't have worked, but somehow I pulled it out. That was our last run for that. I mean, same thing with Vow the Disciple back when we thought we were wiping, and
and it exploded.
The extra damage finally pushed us through as it checked off to reset. So yeah, it was enjoyable. I'm glad that I did it, and it was entertaining. And I think the funniest part was how the argument between what is the front and the back of the room, finding out about that.
Oh god, it's been like so exhausting reading about that. It's like, what's the front for you? To me, the front is where Oryx shows up because you're facing him. It's just logic.
Would make sense. In my head, I would think wherever you enter the room is the front technically, but then I'm thinking also, because that's the front of the Dreadnought is where Oryx is, so that could also count as the front because it's like the bridge of the ship.
And that's what was destroying LFG teams this past weekend. There were people trying to figure that out, and us doing the R1, L1, R2, L2 helped a lot because there were people doing cup, dog, something like that to try to figure out. I was like, no. And everyone got it except one guy that I'm not going to mention the name that kept screwing up all the time. I was like, how many times do we have to tell you go to L1?
He must be getting it like turned around while he's running and stuff. So, I mean, I would think that just seeing which side Oryx is on kind of decides that for you. And it helped that since I was positioned as the floater on the front side, R1, L1 side, it makes it easier for me to like know where everything's happening. Yeah,
because you're always facing wherever Oryx was always showing up.
So that was easy to figure out. But yeah, I could see how some people would get that really good.
Now, quick question, Paul. Do you ever get the Wish Ender bow? The one from...
I don't think so. What it's
a bow you get. It's a bow you get inside the dungeon for the Dreaming City, the Shattered Throne.
Yeah. I have a couple of those. The legendary.
No, it's an exotic.
Oh no, then I don't.
Okay.
I have a different.
Find a way to see if you can do that quest because I was just seeing some notifications from Paul Tassi that he's been using it. That bow now has intrinsic anti-barrier and has like the 40% exotic buff. And it's infinite ammo, so it's able to like melt a bunch of the anti-barriers to try to get that. And now it begins a new season where we're gonna be raiding to try to get the Touch of Malice, the exotic that drops at the end of this raid. Which back in D1 it wasn't a final drop; it was a quest. They needed to find like 50 collectibles to be able to get that before even.
Is that in the raid specifically that you had to find?
Now in Destiny 2, you can only drop at the final chest, like the Vex Mythoclast and everything. But back in Destiny 1, you could get that before, without even having to raid. You needed to find just the collectibles. So, but because they just brought back the raid and not the Dreadnought, which was the patrol zone for Taken King. Yeah, but that's been not the only thing that we've been playing, Paul, because another game came out last week that, when the reviews hit, we were very apprehensive about, and then somehow I think it was when we were like recording.
We were watching Opening Night Live, I think.
Yeah, we were watching Opening Night Live, and we're talking about that. And it was like, it's a new game. Should we just take the plunge? And once again, our arrangement kind of came in, and we paid half and half, 30 and 30, and then we played it, and we're still playing it. And I'll say this. The first 2 days that I played that game, I was like, am I crazy? Why am I having so much fun with this? Like, am I being bamboozled by all the negative reactions that we read about it? It's like, are we such huge outliers? And the more that I've been playing it, the more I'm seeing where a lot of the heavy criticism has come in, like in terms of polish. Like, I'm hitting those snacks. But I'm having this weird thing where even when I had a moment, I screenshot to you yesterday, where the entire world stopped rendering and I was like using my wingsuit and flying beneath it. It's like, yes, the game's kind of broken. I'm just having a lot of fun that it doesn't matter to me.
This is where I had that disconnect between reviews for Cyberpunk and myself playing it, because there was like parts that were really broken at times, but overall I was like, I'm having so much fun. Why are people freaking out about this? And I think also because, as we've mentioned, we play on PS5. However, I think PC and the Xbox versions are much more broken.
We're talking about Saints Row right now. Just anecdotally, based on the reviews I've seen that mostly mained it on either PC on Series X, that's where a lot of the at least from those day one, and just to keep in mind, a lot of those reviews happened without the day one patch also. I was reading that. It was like, they were reviewed with the promise of like, oh yeah, the day one patch is supposed to patch things, but a lot of reviewers are not taking that as gospel, because Fallout 76 made that kind of promise, same as Cyberpunk, and look what happened. So they don't take any chances, and then they don't take any chances, and they just review the product that they're given. And I did see like how broken it was. Like in the skill up review, he literally they posted the end of the game.
Which, I can't lie, I'm kind of pissed off at that in hindsight, because now they're going through plot points of that, and I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks that I know how this ends now. But I understand.
But here's the thing, like, does it matter? The story kind of sucks. It's like the story is pretty much nothing. It's just a moment-to-moment thing of just having like these 4 buddies kind of like trying to wreak havoc and creating the Saints. It doesn't feel like there's much of a plot drive. It's just about just engaging in the moment-to-moment, and the moment-to-moment has just been insane.
I think just more the because I don't mind it. It's kind of got the plot of like a Fast and Furious movie, really, where it's like, yeah, you could say it's dumb, but it's also like simple, and there's a certain quality to it where, I mean, like as of right now, the final boss is an NPC on your side, and so I thought that, because like if I had gone through it, because at first you're sent to arrest him at the beginning of the game, and then you break him out and he becomes part of your team, I was like, oh shoot, that's really cool. Would have been awesome if I didn't know that he's going to betray me later, because now,
and that's why we don't read reviews. And that's the thing, I saw them because I thought we were not going to buy it, because it's like it's the highest profile, lowest scoring game of this year. Like there's obviously other way lower scoring games like in the AA or Crossfire X that has a 38 on Metacritic right now. But it was like, at least from like the high profile, highly anticipated, because Saints Row was actually anticipated, because it was revealed like one of Keeley's shows.
I remember at the reveal, I was like, wow, this looks really good and polished. And now we're like, oh, well, I guess that was curated content for sure.
Oh, yes. And there's the thing is, like, early on, I was like barely having any glitches, and I was like, man, did they really get screwed by the day one patch with the reviewers? Because it's like, I'm really having a lot of fun. It's like, the shooting is not the best, because it's not super precise, but it's like precise enough for me to like just turn my brain off and just like enjoy it. It's like,
that's the key word for sure, is to turn your brain off. Like, this is after a hard day, you just get to goof off like an old school GTA game.
And I'll say this, it's like I would say like this game scored this game scored a lot in the 6 range, and I feel I have learned that there is a time where you can actually enjoy 6s. Do you always see movies in the theater that score high enough? Or back in the day, like we have this weird like recently, like the Jurassic World Dominion, that's a movie I went to see, has like a 38 Rotten Tomatoes. Who cares? It's like like it's you once I mentioned about this whole thing about like are people too focused on just trying to find out the next masterpiece? And you misspoke there, as in like, is that what the media always wants? And no, that's not what the media wants. It's just audiences. Are they just focuses on just wanting to get? I should have
clarified. It's the mostly the society and the consumer side of it.
Exactly, like it's the consumer side to focus on that. And I will say, the last few years, unfortunately, has kind of put that sort of expectation that now it's like you cannot just enjoy something that's just dumb fun, or kind of like in the lower end quality that is like, this is not the most polished thing in the world, but you can kind of find some fun out of it, kind of like the AA side of gaming. And this reminds me, it's like, it's like when you put your mind into it, it's like you can enjoy this as you can enjoy a Michael Bay movie. And I don't want to hear anyone that says that at that point in their life they have enjoyed that. So it's like, especially right now,
Twitter trending of Transformers and a surprising amount of people saying how much they loved that movie.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I know a lot of y'all were saying some of the opposite before, but I think it's just
not from the original one. The original one is the one that people you will find people go back to it go to bat to it. It's just the sequels that kind of.
That's fair.
That took things down.
So it's like a lot of people will they need to get a little bit of distance from that thing. I mean, just look at the revisiting of The Last Jedi by Rian Johnson 5 years later, which 5 years ago.
Yeah,
that
it's
is
insane.
Nuts. And it's like so much was said so quickly, and then after just now, people are like, I'm revisiting this, and it seems a little different than what I thought. And it's like
Rise of Skywalker happened, so
yeah. So there's just a lot of people coming back to things with a very different opinion. And this is something that I've been analyzing a lot, and it's been like I will have to say I actually blame Marvel for where we are currently with like current discourse when it comes to like collective reviews and all that. If you look at MCU stuff, especially when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, a lot of people focus so much on the percentage of how many people gave it a positive review and the way Rotten Tomatoes presents itself, without actually seeing what their reviews actually say or what they're scoring. The thing is that a 6 out of 10 in Rotten Tomatoes is a positive that's going to go towards the positive percentage up. But it's like saying 94% of critics mostly gave this thing a aggregate score of like 6 out of 10. And a lot of people are really badly conflating average movies as the high quality stuff in a way. Because it's like, do you know that the average score for No Way Home, despite it having like a 90 something in like positive reviews, like 7.4? So it's like, I feel like this era Rotten Tomatoes has like really, and the way it has weaponized making average movies seem better than they are, kind of has really screwed up like what actual average movies actually feel like, in a way. Because there's a lot of when you step off of the featured tab of your local streaming service, you'll find some actually pretty average movies, and they are not fun to watch at all. But then there's also some out there that are hidden gems because they're not in a featured tab. They don't get talked about all over social media. And then you're like, wow, this is actually a really solid movie. What's the deal? And it's just not being talked about. So I think it's the same situation with a lot of this. And basically, to bring it all full circle, Saints Row is not necessarily a masterpiece in any stretch of the word.
Not even close.
However,
it's not even a great game. It's not even a great game.
Yeah, it's just a really fun game. And I think as long as people understand that's what they're looking for out of it, and of course it's like, don't you play all games to have fun? It's like, of course, but for the dumb fun category, I think there's a separate area for that. And
also kind of like it's just the desire of having the HBO equivalent of gaming, because obviously like if you see a bunch of HBO shows, that's like a high quality, pristine thing. It's like most of the time, like 90% of the time, the thing that you're watching that thing is quality. And kind of like that idea of the prestige video game, the prestige AAA, quadruple A video game, has kind of like really made people move away from giving the more AA, less prestige thing a chance. And I feel like the Embracer Group, with all their acquisitions of the games that are putting out, that's kind of their goal in a way. Obviously, I wish those things were received a little bit better, because it can make the case for, it's like you can also have fun with the things that are not the super high quality, because let's just not mince words. If you're only expecting the prestige high quality stuff all the time, you're only going to be playing 2-3 games a year, because those, like, trying to get that level of prestige is just going to take so much time. It just takes so much time and money.
I mean, just look at the way we talk to death, the idea of Naughty Dog, Crunch, God of War, and Sony Santa Monica, the process that actually requires for them to get to that level of quality is not sustainable. So when now people are seeing something that has a couple of screws loose in their games, they're like, this game's freaking terrible. But and the reality is like, no, just not all games are made that perfectly.
The standard cannot be The Last of Us and God of War. We were saying that with Last of Us Part 1 reviews dropping in today and it being fairly positive, even though it's not scoring as high as the originally released. But of course, it's a freaking remake of an old game. But it's like, not everything can be that. And I'm sick of having to get into that argument of everyone always expecting that as a base, when that should not be the base, because it's something to always strive towards to. Yes. Because if games cannot have a different base that they can probably strive towards to, and you're always expecting that high level of quality, it's like it's just going to implode the industry. By many developers will overspend so much money to try to get something to that level of quality without knowing that also requires a level of depth talent that not everyone can have. So it's always good that you can have your prestige there, but not forsake everything that's in the middle.
I would dare say that we already reached something like that the last couple of years, helped with COVID, obviously, but I think a lot of devs really tried that, and then it just fell apart due to either mismanagement or not really understanding what they could do out of it, or overspending. And we saw some fallouts out of that. I can't think of any exact details right now, but I'm sure you push that, you could find some. But yeah, overall.
But it's like, even despite that, it's like Saints Row is like, even with its problems, it's just a good reminder of like, we shouldn't be immediately turned off as something like it's not scoring high enough. We have gotten into that problem. Like we did that early on with Dying Light 2. In fact, I've been re-listening some of the older episodes from this year just to kind of like remember where we were, and some funny nuggets that I found, some offhand comments that ended up turning true, or like in an ironic way. But it's like Dying Light 2 was a initial example that we were excited to play it, and then immediately when we saw reviews, we just dodged, like completely, like
dipped hard.
We dipped hard, and Saints Row scored way lower than Dying Light, but we still ended up buying it. And I
would say I've had a lot more fun with Saints Row than Dying Light. So take with that what you will. Listen,
it's your taste, so it's like
definitely.
So and that's the thing, like sometimes you can't amount, and I think I said it before when we were talking about Elden Ring and the early reviews, when we actually bought that, we were not going to buy that game immediately because we were like feasting already, and then all the 97 Metacritic, all the 10 out of 10s were happening. Then we felt like, I think we have to now, and I'm kind of glad it did, because eventually that was a game that really carried us for like a good 2 months.
At least I haven't eaten that good with a game since like The Witcher, I think.
But then at the same time, we were talking about there's technical issues here. Is this a 10 out of 10? And then that's what I mentioned, is like, reviews should always be like a suggestion but never gospel. In the end, it's like, if something looks interesting to us, we can always try it. It's like Saints Row, we're like, I think what happened here with Saints Row is that we were starved. We were like, that we had been coming from such famish of not actually buying like a big game for a while, that we're like, should we just give it a shot? And if it's bad, it's like, well, at least we gave it a shot, and look, we have found enjoyment out of it. So it's a good thing to have. If we are interested in something, even if it's not reviewing well, in the end, it's like, we have our own opinions. We shouldn't just base it on others, and something that I have to keep reminding myself of.
And I'm certainly glad. I mean, just imagine if we decided not to go buy it ourselves, and how the world's reviews would have affected our view on that game, and how it has for so many people who didn't play the game. We're like kind of railing on it because of gameplay that they didn't experience. But now
that they experienced that we didn't.
Right. Yeah. So it's just, I'm glad that I was able to see it myself and make a decision myself.
Exactly. And you had a friend telling you it's actually really fun. It's like the word of mouth, and we saw a few outliers, so it was like, okay, there's some people that are actually not a line. And then I linked that Kotaku article of someone saying that he was finding fun out of it, and he felt distressed how many people were saying that he was being paid off for saying something positive just because a consensus had formed. And that's what really struck me. It's like, it's like consensus. It's like, our opinions are what matters. So yeah, it's like Saints Row. I'll still have to caveat. It's like, are we more positive because we only paid $30 each? That's also something to
always keep a little bit, but I also feel like it's a game that has enough content, at least because, as we know, I love longevity in games of replay value, and Saints Row is really built for that. So if you can get past the bugs, I feel like it could be. as long as you understand what you're getting into.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, it's like
that's I think my verdict for that.
Yes,
one.
And that's always going to be always a caveat as we try new games, because this arrangement allows us to play a bunch of games I otherwise would be spending 60 or 70. But it's something to always keep in mind whenever we're recommending stuff. So
yeah, for sure.
Especially with we are buying Last of Us Part 1 and we're doing a split. Many reviews, it's so funny saying it, that it's like, yeah, this is great, but if you played it before, you're not a super hardcore fan, it's like, maybe 70 is not the right price. And to me, I would buy it at full price because I am that super fan. It's like The Last of Us is one of my favorite games of all time. You are more hot and cold with it, but it's like playing it for what's going to amount for you for 30 and me 40 because you paid more for something previously. It's like, that would be kind of like the ideal price for someone to eventually get it, but hey, at least we get to play it now. And
absolutely, it's
I'll
the
still
same
say
as that buy it on a sale kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, but it's like something to keep in mind. And I hope like I really enjoy it. I played Remaster, remember, so that'll be my second go around with.
That's true. And it's been a while for me. We were trying to do the math on that, and it's been a couple of years, or at least one. But I'm looking forward to it because, like I said, I can't fault the original's plot at all, and that's what I'm going to be getting. Plus all the gameplay and accessibility options, I'm going to at least enjoy like a week or so of revisiting.
Yeah, and you had that problem of trying to bring a simple mindset into a morally great thing, like what happened to you with Part 2. Part 1 is not that, so you're definitely are primed to.
I realized a lot about myself, if nothing else. So I have to thank The Last of Us 2 for that much.
Oh yes, but enough of that, Paul, because there's actually a lot of news here because we have been. With the showcases and all of that, it's like news have been like slow, and now everything's like blowing up. So press X
for some news.
All right, Paul. The number one story just broke before. Right before, and I screamed.
You love to see it.
Oh yes. So number one by Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle. A Nintendo Direct featuring Wind Waker and Twilight Princess is reportedly coming in September. A Nintendo Direct presentation focused on Zelda announcements will reportedly be held in September. That's according to GameSpeed managing editor Mike Minotti and Giant Bomb reporter Jeff Grubb, our favorite, who are speaking on a podcast this week. To be clear, guys, the one thing we're very, very sure is being announced at this Direct are the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess ports for Switch, Minotti said.
That's what I love to hear.
yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of Zelda stuff at this thing, Grubb said. I think this is like a Zelda blowout for Nintendo. 100% there's a Nintendo Direct in September. It's that simple. There is still some uncertainty about whether this will be a general Direct, maybe a mini. There was some talk of it being a partner Direct. Grubb added, if they're going to have Zelda stuff there, this is not a partner Direct. And those are the things that we've been hearing. The specifics that were named dropped were Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD ports to the Switch. Which again, even had we not heard that, I would be speculating that would be happening right now while we wait for the run-up to Breath of the Wild 2. And yet we have heard that, and we've heard other things. Again, Metroid Prime Remastered, that sounds like it's got to be announced as something like this. And then third parties will be showing up, he continued. I've heard some of that as well. It's not super exciting, the things I've heard. To me, it sounds like at least a mini Direct. But if it's going to have the name of the next Zelda, which it seems like a distinct possibility, that sounds like a big general Direct. Grubb said that he heard from a pretty good source that the event will take place during the week beginning September 12th. The Metroid Prime thing seems like it should be happening. It's a lot of remasters to announce in one thing, but maybe that will be a little bit of a theme here. That's what he said. So this would be a dream come true because it would finally close the loop. It would finally give me a peace in my mind that the entirety of the Zelda catalog would finally be in a system that's modern, can be carried everywhere, and it's in HD. Instead of having to keep my Wii freaking plugged in.
It's the last holdout for the Wii U, that's for sure. But I'm so glad that we're hearing some more certain talk about it. Because you know, when you hear some of those leaks, they use very specific words to not get people too excited. Where this one was like, no, I've heard this is absolutely a thing. It's just the details besides this that I'm not sure about, and that's what got my mind racing because they don't just say stuff like that. Not these people.
Yeah, they're well sourced.
Yes.
And like how BGC sourced the fact that there was a direct partner thing happening at the end of June and ended up happening. It's like they don't put this out if you're not confident. Jeff Grubb, historically during 2020, when everyone was like asking where was the direct, and he had said that it was coming, and then it happened just a day after, and everyone was trying to egg on him, and then he stood up and be like, no, it's actually happening, you'll see. Like, boom, and it
24
happened.
24 hours, guys. When it's just so funny how people really go nuts about that stuff, and not in a good way. I always say going nuts as like a catch-all term, but they were losing their minds in a very bad way, in a very mean way. And
it's just a bad example of consumerism run amok, and everyone being like, please Nintendo, to give us things so we can consume you. That's basically
also the fact that Nintendo basically is doing the Immortan Joe route from Mad Max, where he's like, hit the levers on Zelda remakes, cut it off so people want more, give you a little more, and that's just always a bad way. It's only a matter of time before somebody tries to
exactly, and especially a Nintendo that it's always so weird about how they do backwards compatibility and the preservation of their own legacy. It's like that's what makes it extra frustrating. But I've been wanting this for a while. Like my Switch has been just gathering dust almost all year. And if Grab said that this direct is planned on the week of the 12th, that makes sense because on September 9th, that's when Splatoon 3 comes out. That's the final first-party Nintendo game announced that's coming out. Xenoblade already came out 2 months ago. Yep. They have nothing. The only thing that we know that's coming is Zelda. So they got to talk about that. Because the Pokemon games, they're announced on their own at their own time by the Pokemon Company. They're like adjacent to Nintendo, partnered with Nintendo, but it's not something that it's Nintendo's that's Nintendo's goal to like make it their part of their big slate that they usually announce.
Just a side note, just imagine, because technically with the Pokemon Company being its own thing, imagine if that relationship ever diminished. They could technically go elsewhere to other games.
That'd be insane. It's like, because that relationship is like so ironclad, and they're looked at in such a,
to the point that people think that it is a Nintendo game, but it's not. It's
just Nintendo published.
Pokemon Company.
But it's all about the Pokemon Company. But it's like, and Metroid Remastered, that'd be great, because I kept telling you last year, it's like that'd be a great one for you to revisit so you could see like modern 3D Metroidvania designs, original originator, and it's still holding up really well. So please, Nintendo, is like, I've been like, every Nintendo Direct I watch, I always walk out disappointed because I'm always looking for this. So
and this is the Hawkeye meme all over again. Don't give me hope.
Yes.
But I want it.
But I want it so bad, especially because you've never finished it. That's what makes it funnier.
I know. And as we've established in previous things, it was a glitch that broke my game. I did not just stop playing it. Just want people to know that.
Yeah, but also you're the person that gives Game of the Year to games you never finish, and that's your favorite game you never finished.
That was last year, and you would not stop making fun of me, so I'm never doing it again.
Just make sure that you beat it. And you still haven't beaten Guardians of the Galaxy, right? That's what I find funny.
I have since rescinded my Game of the Year for that one. But yeah. Well,
that's just who you are. That's just who you are, Paul. So, number 2, this one is more negative and more distressing news for people that are not in the United States. Number 2, by Chris Collin from BGC, PlayStation 5 gets a price increase in Europe, Japan, and parts of North America. So Sony has announced that the PlayStation 5 will see a price increase of up to 12.5% in numerous countries. Effective immediately, the price of both the standard PS5 and the PS5 Digital Edition will be raised in Europe, Australia, and parts of Asia and North America, as in Canada and Mexico. Those are North America. However, there will be no price increase in the United States. Sony says the price increase is due to high global inflation rates. The new prices are as follows, effective immediately. Europe is the PS5 disc is 549.99 euros. It used to be 499. PS5 digital is 449. It used to be 399 euros. In the UK, it's 479.99 pounds. It used to be 449.99. PS5 digital 389.99 pounds. It used to be 359. Japan, the fat PS5 is gonna cost 60,478 yen, up from 54,978. That's a massive increase. The PS5 digital is 49,478 yen. Used to be 43,978 yen. In China, the fat one is going to cost 4,299 yuan. It used to cost 3,899 yuan. PS5 digital, 3,499 yuan. It used to be 3,099. Australia, normal one is going to cost 799.95. Used to cost 749.95. PS5 digital, 649.95 Australian dollars. It used to be 599.95. In Mexico, it's gonna be 14,999 lempiras. It's not. It looks like dollars there. It's not that.
Yeah, I see that it's slightly diagonal.
Exactly, and it's like it used to be 13. No, it's pesos. Sorry, lempiras is in Honduras. It used to be 13,999 pesos, and the digital is 12,499 pesos. It used to be 11,499 pesos, and in Canada, the Canadian dollar fat 649.99, and then PS5 digital 519.99. Sony also knows that select markets in the EMEA, APAC, and LATAM regions, LATAM for Latin American, may also see price increases, but hasn't listed them in detail. I can confirm that the PS5 in El Salvador, fat, bundled in with a bunch of stuff, is $1,099.
Yeah, I remember you posted that picture, and that
the irony of that, of me getting that ad the same day this happened. So, in a statement on the PlayStation blog, SIE President and CEO Jim Ryan said, "The global economic environment is a challenge that many of you around the world are no doubt experiencing. We're seeing high global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends, impacting consumers and creating pressure in many industries. Based on these challenging economic conditions, SIE has made the difficult decision to increase the recommended retail price (RRP) of PlayStation 5 in select markets across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, Asian Pacific, Latin America, as well as Canada. There will be no price increase in the United States. While this price increase is a necessity given the current global economic environment and its impact on SIE's business, our top priority continues to be improving the PS5 supply situation so that as many players as possible can experience everything that PS5 offers and what's still to come."
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for listening to Game Economics, told by Baloo from Jungle Book.
Yeah.
So this
sucks. Yeah. This absolutely sucks.
It's one of those things. I know we're going to get into the details of exactly the minutia of some of these things. I know a lot of people are like, why is this going up everywhere but the US? And I'll ask these questions, which we've gone back and forth in our chat about the details. So do you want to go ahead and explain why this is not America and it is everybody where else, and why this is a big deal?
It's global inflation. Unfortunately, a lot of the value of many currencies, especially the ones listed here, are like have lost a lot of value right now with all the high prices of everything else. And for some reason, the US dollar remains kind of like the strongest compared to other in currency compared to other currencies, that they felt like they needed to increase the price. Here's what really busts me in a way that just makes me angry. What were they saying a year ago around this time?
That they weren't going to have any issues?
No, not only that. That the PS5 was already profitable.
Oh, yes.
Remember that? I linked that. It's like that makes it worse, because it's like, you're already announcing that that the thing was being profitable, and now it's like, outside of the US, you're gonna put the cost of inflation on the consumers instead of you trying to eat a little bit of your profits. It's like, that's a really bad look. And especially like if the US one had also increased prices, it would be like, ugh, crap. That's serious. But the fact that in the US is the only one that's like, no, the thing is remaining at $4.99 for the fat one and $3.99 for digital. It's like, they're increasing the price in everywhere else because they think they can. And here's the thing: is like the PS5 has been dominating in all these areas. Debatable in the UK. UK has been a little bit more back and forth. We've been seeing some UK retail sales that I've been like posting in our chat throughout all the year. But in these other places, the PS5 has been dominating. That's such a middle finger to those markets. It'd be like, yeah, we're already winning here, so everyone, all of you that you don't have the console yet and you're still wanting to get it, F you. It's like, we're gonna increase the price because we want to keep like just making more money. And obviously, yes, like corporations are here to make money, but with this, the Sony being the only one that charges $70 for the games when the competition still hasn't, the constant nickel and diming of $10 upgrades here, $20 upgrade here, when the competition just gives that for free, is like, it's now increasingly now it's like, it's become clear for me is that Sony is being run by a business by the money guys. And when the money guy runs something, when the suits run something, we know what happens.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't end well.
Yeah, it really doesn't end well. Look what happened to Xbox last generation. With Don Matrick, that was a business guy. That was like the money guy, and look where that led them to. And with the PS4 earning so much goodwill in that entire generation and seeing it being slowly eroded, despite them still winning, in quotes, with Microsoft kind of like making ground in more consumer, pro-consumer areas with Game Pass and all that, for them to find a way to compete, just not in raw console sales. Like there was like a Piers Morgan analyst that put out in like CNBC that the PS5 has estimated sold 21 million systems, while both the Xbox Series X and S have sold like 13.5 million. So it's like there's still like a significant gap between the two.
Yeah, but it's closing.
Yeah, it's definitely closing. Now it's definitely going to close because another adjacent story that's still for this, by BGC, Xbox Series X and S price point will remain. Following the news that the PlayStation 5 will see a price increase of up to 12.5% in numerous countries, BGC reached out to Microsoft as to whether the company would follow suit. We're constantly evaluating our business to offer our fans great gaming options, the spokesperson said. Our Series S suggested retail price remains as it was. This is the first time the company has spoken on the matter since declining to comment to Bloomberg earlier this year, when the publication asked the different console makers whether they plan to increase the price of their systems. That happened when MetaQuest increased the price of the headset by $100. So, and not only that, Nintendo, they provided VGC the following statement. As our president, Mr. Furukawa, stated at the 82nd Annual General Meetings of Shareholders in June, while we cannot comment on pricing strategies, we currently do not have any plans to change the price of our hardware due to inflation or increased procurement costs in each country. We will determine our future pricing strategies through careful and continued deliberations. While the final price to consumers is always determined by retailers, as Mr. Furukawa stated, Nintendo has no plans to increase the trade price for its hardware. Not a good look. That your competitors are like, no, we're like, yeah, inflation's happening, but we're not putting that cost on our customers.
Granted, that's easy PR for Xbox and Nintendo to say we have no plans. That means really nothing, because they can just say, oh, we now are going to plan for that, and now we're going to raise the prices like 6 months to a year later.
But but here's the thing. This already happened. This was effective immediately. Sony already increased the prices. They haven't.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Like now, if I was Nintendo, I would absolutely say that, because now I'm going to get all that good PR from all these people that aren't going to be buying PlayStations anymore. And then now I have in my court the decision whenever I want to raise the prices to match that, and nobody's going to say anything. We're just going to say, oh, we tried, but we couldn't.
And the thing is that they're not going to do that. They absolutely are not.
You sure?
Yeah, they're not going to.
Why?
Because they don't have to. Because they look better against the console leader.
But they also have been prone to greed in the past. What do you think about that?
No, not with Microsoft. Microsoft has never increased their prices of their things, especially right now where and especially Microsoft is the only one. Like maybe Nintendo could be the one that I could see eventually flipping the script.
So I was referring to Nintendo this whole time. Yeah, but Microsoft, I could see them holding to it longer. I mean, just look at Game Pass.
Not only that, they can hold forever. They're a $2 trillion company.
Yeah,
they can eat the cost. Because remember, they're not in the business to sell consoles. No, like they don't care about
computers and all that other stuff.
So it's like they can hold, like, even if they're having the same manufacturing costs that Sony's having, Microsoft can hold firm because they can lose catastrophic amounts of money. They're still like one of the most valuable companies in the whole world based on their valuation. It's like, and the only thing I can see them eventually increasing is the price of Game Pass. But the consoles, I can see them remaining firm because Why would they? It's like they have the money to make Sony look bad. And Sony, that is so prone this entire generation of stepping on the rake all the time. Literally.
That's a good way to describe it. They have the money to make Sony look bad. That's a very good description, I think, because it's accurate. Where it's like, oh yeah, maybe they're missing out on the extra $10 per game, but that's more just they're paying that price to get the good PR out of it. Really.
And Sony right now is like, their PR is such a disaster. Whoever's running the Sony PR is like, it's incredible. Like, just like the constant F-ups all the time. Like what happened with Horizon when they promised the free upgrade, and then the year after they were promoting that in order for you to get the upgrades you have to buy the $80 version for like both versions. And then it's like the outcry making them be like, oh yeah, that's right, we said we weren't going to do that. Now from here on out, every upgrade is gonna be $10. We believe in generations. If we go, especially Jim Ryan, if you go all the way to making a new generation machine, is to make games just specific for those machines. And then they go, and every game that they're releasing right now, other than Returnal and Ratchet and Clank, have been like cross-gen. It's like Sony this generation has just been constant contradictions. They like not speaking at all, and then when they speak up, it's always for bad news. It's like it's them. They're literally being Ezra Miller right now. They're like pushing how far they can get by being stupid and doing like all this stupid stuff before
really
it actually hits them.
15-20-year-old business model type way of communicating, and that just doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, it's like, and it sucks because the people that were at the top of PlayStation from like 2013 to 2019, they didn't used to be this bad. And now there's like what's funny is that usually when Sony puts out like bad news, they usually like to follow it up with good news to try to quell some bad vibes. There's like that rumors that on September 8th, that's when their next showcase is gonna be. Almost like to the year from when we got the last showcase that you almost missed by 5 minutes to start because you were coming back from the hurricane shelter.
Yep.
So then once again they will put out that showcase. We're gonna see they're gonna show some really cool games, and then we're gonna be like, yay! Because that's the thing, like Sony has a trump card. Their games are great. So they're actually putting out games, but
can't fault them for that part, at least.
Yes, but I tell you, it's like and what sucks is that there were analysts saying that they don't believe this is gonna affect how PlayStation 5 does in all these markets. I hope it does.
I think it definitely will.
It definitely needs to, because
that sounds like somebody that just said something really bold and has to back it up with what they think is going to happen. Because I mean, think about it. What are they going to say? Oh yeah, we think this is going to affect our sales. They can't afford to say that. They have to look like they're on top of it all, even if it's a bald-faced lie. So I feel like this is absolutely going to affect them. There's still going to be a lot of desperate people. I mean, look at how much money scalpers have gotten for selling their super overpriced machines now.
And those prices have come down catastrophically because they couldn't.
Yeah, no.
After a certain point, they couldn't sell them at that high price.
So I think that this is going to be that turning point for that, where they might still get a few, but I think there's going to be a lot of people jumping ship now, especially with how easy to get the Series S is, for sure.
That one is the key. Is like right now it's like PlayStation served an easy ball to Microsoft. Just imagine if Microsoft then goes like in a couple weeks. They're having like a TGS conference like in 3 weeks, so they're actually gonna try to hit Japan. What if they announce a price drop for the console over there? Because we're like 2 years. Just imagine. That's what Sony has done by doing this, and I would love to see that, because I am especially as someone that we main on PlayStation. It just sucks being in this side right now and just seeing everything going wrong in what should be easy wins, and we can only take solos whenever a really good game comes out, and even those don't come out that often. Like The Last of Us coming in right now after we has got like a Horizon as a first party for us because we didn't play Gran Turismo. Look at that gap. These are like our only solaces. So oh yeah, PlayStation, you make it hard to love you this generation after really how easy it was. Yeah, but hey, it's like they're still making moves. Next story, number 3. Sony acquires a mobile studio while promising it won't diminish its commitment to players. Sony has announced the acquisition of a mobile game developer, making the official start of its PlayStation Studios mobile division. In a post on the official PlayStation blog, PlayStation Studios head Herman Holst welcomed German developer Savage Game Studios to the PlayStation Studios family, while also explaining mobile's upcoming role in expanding its community. Although Savage is a relatively new studio established in 2020, it was co-founded by veteran mobile developers Mikhail Katkov from Rovio and Zynga, Najim Adjir from Wargaming and Rovio, and Michael McManus from Wargaming and Insomniac. Holst also seemingly attempted to preempt any negativity from players that would result in the mobile developer being added to the PlayStation Studios portfolio. As we assured you before, with our plans to bring select titles to PC, our efforts beyond console in no way diminish our commitment to the PlayStation community, nor our passion to keep making amazing single-player, narrative-driven experiences, Holst assured players. Our mobile gaming efforts will similarly additive, providing more ways for more people to engage with our content and striving to reach new audiences unfamiliar with PlayStation and our games. Savage Game Studios is joining a newly created PlayStation Studios mobile division, which will operate independently from our console development and focus on innovative, on-the-go experiences based on new and existing PlayStation IP. Holst also revealed that Savage is already working on a new and unannounced AAA mobile live service action game, adding, "It's too early to reveal more, but I'm so excited for when they'll be able to."
All right. Talking about the elephant in the room. Jeez. So it's like, obviously they're going to say a lot of those things. This sounds like they're just trying to break into it, and they know that most of the people that care about them aren't going to like it. So they're trying to get ahead of that, as you said and quoted. It's when they said that they were going to use possibly existing IP for more things that people that don't know about PlayStation in our games, that sounds like they're going to either try to port things over to mobile, create mobile tie-ins,
more runners.
Yeah, just trying to run through any of that stuff, making whatever, I don't want to say cheaply made, because I'm sure they'll throw some money at it, but comparatively, it's going to be, hey, this is going to be the gateway drug for people who are not really into gaming to get into that. And then they're like, oh, where's this character from? Yeah. Let me go buy a PlayStation. And I think that's their whole idea with this. They're trying to break into a new market out of it.
And not only that, as live service, remember when they said that they were trying to publish 10 live service games by 2026?
Sounds like this is where that's going to be.
Yeah, this is another one. Because we were like speculating which ones could it be, because we were trying to make the math. Who could they be doing? And this could add to that, but I wonder if it's just added on top of what they had already announced, or that was just their intent and they're just trying to making all of that come into fruition. I'm really just concerned about Sony's pursuit of this live service market. I've said it many times, it's like the live service market is one ripe with absolute catastrophic failures. It's like Destiny twice now had to like teeter at the edge of failure, because that's the kind of problem pursuing that kind of game gives you. And yes, obviously you can say that you're reassuring us that you're still committed to amazing single player narrative driven experiences, and I'm like, yeah, until you announce more, because you know the last ones that they announced are Spider-Man and Wolverine. So it's like,
aren't even them. So that's
Insomniac.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they own Insomniac, so that's them.
Oh, well then, yeah, fair enough. But it's like, within that, it's like you said, they're the ones that decide and pull the trigger on these things. So it's like, of course they can say that, but when does that change? When does that get affected by the money that they might see from something?
And when these are the announcements that we keep hearing, and then we hear perpetual silence from them all the time, that's why it's very hard not to feel very apathetic towards them. Because it's like, we're only hearing that the moves that you're making are just money-making moves that completely go against the PlayStation that we know and love. It's going like in the complete opposite direction. I feel I was listening this from the PlayStation podcast that I listen a lot, the Sacred Symbols podcast. The main host there did a full extra episode that he does for his patrons, where he interviewed a Fortnite player that has spent like 2,000 hours in that game, has spent in like massive amounts of money on that game, and the host realizing how much his skin costs in that game, and trying to make the math of how many players play Fortnite, and you multiplying that amount of money, and knowing that Sony is a minority stake holder for Epic, and then probably having gotten a taste of how much money Epic is making, and then be like, now we want that. It just feels like Sony got a taste of the devil, and now they just want to make a deal with it. And unless they finally come in swinging, here are all these story-based games to assuage us, is like, we can remain skeptical. Now that they're gonna dive into the mobile market that is all about giving you that, like constantly gouging, it's like, it's just unfortunate. And good for them that are going to be making their money, but it again adds to the apathy of what it feels to be like a PlayStation fan, that we love them for other stuff. We were wanting them to make more variety of games, just not go this direction. So, oh well.
It's a variety of game, that's for sure.
Oh yes, bad. Number 4, Paul. Halfway, we still have a few more stories to go.
That we do.
Yes. This is also Sony. Sony and the devil, Tencent, are buying 30% of Elden Ring studio From Software. From Software says the investment may help it publish games globally. Elden Ring studio From Software has announced that it's selling shares to Sony and Tencent, which will result in them owning a combined 30% of the company. In an official notice published by From Software's parent company, Kadokawa Corporation, it was announced that new shares will be issued to 6Joy Hong Kong, a subsidiary of Tencent, and Sony Interactive Entertainment. According to the document, once the shares have been issued, 6Joy will own 16.5% of From Software, and Sony will own 14.09%, with Kadokawa continuing to own the remaining 69.66%. Nice. In the notice, Kadokawa explains that it recognizes the enhancement of capabilities for the creation, development, and deployment of game IP as one of the group's highest priorities. As such, it decided to allow From Software to arrange a third-party allotment to 6Joy and Sony in order to gain extra funding that may help it publish its own games globally. Through the implementation of the fund procurement, From Software will aim to proactively invest in development of more powerful game IP for itself to strengthen From Software's development capabilities, and will seek to establish a framework that allows the expansion of the scope of its own publishing in the significantly growing global market, the notice states. From Software usually publishes its own games in Japan, but in other regions they're handled by other publishers. Sekiro was published by Activision, for example, while Elden Ring and Dark Souls were handled by Bandai Namco. So, From Software getting an angel investment from their most played, the console manufacturer where most of where most of their games are mostly played, and also getting another 15% from the devil.
I mean, from FromSoft's perspective, this is probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to them, because as they said, that
it allows them to expand.
They are getting infused immediately into them, allows them to do so much more with their stuff, get bigger scope, do more stuff. You can never say anything that From Software makes from now is going to be a niche release.
Not anymore. Anyone that still wants to argue about niche with From Software, sorry, it's like Elden Ring broke. Elden Ring was like the damn broken.
And now having minority stakes with such huge companies like that is absolutely closing the book on that debate.
Yeah, so I was seeing some analysis that this seems like we might be seeing what Sony's strategy may be going forward, as they may not have the money capital to be buying all these studios, but being able to invest in
stakes.
Yeah, but buying minority stakes ensures that at least they have a save. You have Daddy Microsoft wanting to come and swallow someone. It's like,
I mean, imagine that kind of a threat for a smaller company like that. To say, all right, fine, if you don't do what we want, we'll pull all of our shares and we'll sell that, and you're not going to have that kind of money anymore, especially if they're in the middle of development. There are a lot of companies that are just going to say, yeah, sure, we'll do whatever you want. We need that money. We're in the middle of all this. We've hired people. We need to pay them. So,
but at the same time, like, look how it's not even Tencent that's it's like Tencent has gotten so big that they have created all these little subsidiaries to try to hide the fact that it's them. Like, they created that publisher level. Yeah, they created that level Infinite publisher that we saw a bunch of those games at Keely's thing.
And so many people were like, "Well, this seems kind of dope," but
it's like if you knew what level Infinite is, like, yeah, that's like a secret Tencent thing just lurking and like out in the open. And now this
they know that people don't like the name Tencent, so they have to hide it behind other names. It's just so sketchy.
Exactly. And then now the 6-3 Hong Kong thing. So it's like that would always, like, especially what we read with the Ubisoft wanting, like the Tencent wanting to increase their stake in Ubisoft, and they're like this close to like being just a certain percentage above what the Guillemot own about that company for them to like fully take over. Like slowly, it's like I tell you, it's like that. I gave you that Riverdale clip. That's how I think of Tencent, as that freaking Mr. Cypher. So it's like, I see what I can imagine, like From Software hearing, oh, they're wanting to invest in us so we can become a more, like, we can self-publish our games now, because they only self-publish in Japan, and having to, because just imagine if they had published Elden Ring everywhere, they would get all the money.
Oh, so
like right now, Bandai Namco is like raking in the cash with all the money that they're with the 16.6 million units that Elden Ring has sold by June 30th. It's like, if they were the ones publishing, they would make all the money on top of having done the game. So it sucks that in order to do that kind of thing, you have to do deal with the devil. So
that's the struggle right there.
Yeah. Speaking of other devils from that country, number 5, Paul, Quantic Dream is being acquired by NetEase. The Heavy Rain developer will be the Chinese company's first European studio. By Chris Collion, also from BGC. NetEase has agreed to acquire Quantic Dream for an undisclosed sum. In a press release issued by the Chinese company, it was stated that the Paris-based studio behind such narrative games as Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, and Beyond Two Souls will continue to operate independently after the deal. The acquisition will mark another step in NetEase's plans for growth, most notably because it would make Quantic Dream the first NetEase studio based in Europe. The news comes in the wake of allegations of a toxic workplace culture that the studio has been struggling to shake off, as well as a recent X-Fire report which claimed the company was struggling to attract talent in the face of fierce competition, and that as a result of its upcoming Star Wars Eclipse will likely not be released until at least 2027. So the thing with NetEase is that I don't think NetEase has the same direct connections to the CCP, the Communist Party, the Communist Party of China, like Tencent, like, because Tencent is like directly tied to the CCP. It's still like weird. It's like, the Chinese are just like gobbling what's out there.
It's terrifying, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I hesitate to always go that route of like a country having such a personality as like blaming everything wrong on a certain country, but the way that the Chinese government controls certain individual companies and then does stuff through that, man, it's almost like the way America kind of overthrows governments too.
Yeah, but I think the negative connotation with China is just the fact that it's like it's like the biggest communist party that's in the world, where a lot of heinous stuff happens under them, like what happened to the Uyghurs, and the concentration camps for Muslims that they had there, that everyone knows is there. What they tried to do with Hong Kong like 3 years ago. The only city in that entire country that's not like controlled by that party. It's like a lot of heinous stuff happens in China, and this is not at fault with the people of China. It's just like the government. It's
yeah, that's a good point, and it's always just kind of makes my skin crawl the way that a government tries to buy companies to buy other companies to buy other companies. Is like there's some weird shell corporation Mission Impossible nonsense going on in the midst of all that, and it makes me like, it's so above my head that I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to really experience the direct force of that, but boy, will it affect every part of our lives.
No, and just knowing that a lot of that money is blood money, almost it feels like blood money, especially like it's not just China, it's also the Saudi Arabia Foundation. They're like, Saudi Arabia is also like investing in games. Saudi Arabia is even worse because it's like that's a country where women cannot even like show their faces. They behead gay people, Christian people, and all of that, and that comes also straight from the government. And like they bought SNK. Like the Saudi Arabia bought SNK. They invested 5% in Capcom. They gave $1 billion to Embracer. That they eventually went to then go gobble up everything that they gobble up like a week or two ago is like...
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So it's like, yeah, it's like the kind of money that's flowing like in these kinds of investments, and many corporations not having the moral fortitude of saying no because it's money. That's what makes it scummy. So yeah, RIP Quantic Dream.
Yeah, I
see
guess
how it
we're
goes
not
with
getting Eclipse anytime soon, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't fixed their workplace culture that they allege is not true, but it's like the reports keep saying otherwise. No surprise people don't want to go work there. Unfortunately, because Sorek Eclipse looked cool. So
sure did. So, oh man.
Number 6, Paul. This is thanks to the Game Informer cover that popped up yesterday. So, new God of War Ragnarok combat details and screenshots revealed. Sony Santa Monica discusses weapon signature moves and new shields by Tom Ivan. Sony Santa Monica Studio has revealed some of the ways in which God of War Ragnarok builds on the combat options available in its predecessor. Lead combat designer Mihir Sheth told Game Informer that one of the team's internal philosophies is the idea that Kratos plays with his food. He explained, "We try to create systems you want to engage with that are fun, very playful, lots of different routes. And when we looked at the combat in the last game, we were like, we can push this further. We can find new toys and ways of playing with enemies and strategies. That's been the guiding principle more than anything else." Sheth said one way the sequel does this is by introducing a whole new suite of moves for Kratos which are available via the triangle button. In 2018's God of War, pressing triangle either recalled the protagonist's axe, did nothing if it was already in his possession, or switched to the axe if Kratos had the Place of Chaos equipped. Ragnarok's new triangle attacks are called weapon signature moves. Kratos can now infuse his weapons with ice or fire to deal elemental attacks called Frost Awaken and Whiplash, which can freeze or incinerate enemies respectively. Kratos can also use multiple new shields, including the Dauntless and Stonewall ones. By pairing at the last possible moment, the former can be used to unleash a smash attack that throws and stuns enemies. The Stonewall shield can be used to parry, but it absorbs kinetic energy with every hit it blocks. Once fully charged, it can be banged into the ground to release a screen-wide pulse, which knocks approaching enemies off their feet. Game Informer also provided a number of new God of War Ragnarok screenshots, which you can view at the VGC article. So, it's looking like God of War.
Dang. Yeah, I'm looking through those screenshots right now. That is looking mighty nice, and I'm really glad that they found, I mean, in the midst of a game that is so dense like that, to be able to find like, hey, you know what, we don't actually use this button all that much, let's allow for like more freedom and more moves that you can do that doesn't make it feel like an MMO game after a while, because you know how some games are like more complexity, and then you have to open 3 separate weapon wheels and opening up certain skills, and Sony
Santa Monica's like philosophy when it comes to gameplay is pick up and play. Yeah. Like make it as simple as it can be to get it, and then I'm just build mastery from there. So,
and really glad that as of right now, it's still said to be coming out this year.
Now, here's the thing: now that getting the Game Informer cover right now, and they're willing to give that extensive month-long preview like an IGN first, that guarantees to me that they did this for 2018 with 3-month lead time. In fact, it was the January issue of Game Informer that had like the long breakdown, and that was like the first big preview. So I wonder if they're gonna also, after this month-long preview, media will get to preview it afterwards. So kind of follow a little bit of like the pattern they followed in 2018. So it's because of that fear of it probably slipping from November 9, 2022 that I'm not allowing myself to get so excited, because I'm just so fearful. I'm like traumatized by all the delays we've been getting this year. So, yes. But it's like getting this, not this tidbits now. It's like makes it clear. It's like there's nothing to hide. It's like they just wanted to give you more surprises because everyone was like, why are they so quiet? Why are they not showing gameplay? Why are they hiding? Are they afraid? Blah blah blah. Is that?
It's always easy to say that, but I'm glad that this is the other option between silence, and that is they want to reveal things in their time and to build hype in the right way, which I really respect. But granted, with the way that everything's going, it's easy to assume the other option.
Exactly.
They don't have anything to show, or it's not ready.
Yeah, it's like, and I feel it's like because everyone is conflating what happened to Horizon with what's trying to happen here, because there are a lot of people that are trying to make fun of Horizon reusing certain animations and all that. There were so many people saying that Horizon didn't.
I can't believe that was a thing.
Yeah, it's so everyone's kind of like conflating. That's why Sony's like being more quiet, because they don't want to get that criticism, especially because a lot of people said that when they first showed this game at the showcase in 2021, the one that ended with the big showcase, our first official look at the game. Some people were like, this game doesn't look that different from 2018. This looks like DLC, blah, blah, blah. There are some people like wanting to say not knowing how sequels work, which is so stupid. It's like, go back to like how sequels used to be. It's like, so there's this weird, but here's the thing, is like most of that comes from like trollish fanboys from the Xbox side. So ignore the so number 7 fall. Assassin's Creed Mirage is reportedly set for release in spring 2023. This was the game that we knew as Assassin's Creed Rift. The game is expected to be a smaller, stealth-based experience set in Baghdad. According to details posted by YouTuber Jonathan with an O with a zero.
Zero.
With a numerical 0. Some of which were corroborated by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. The game will take the series back to basics when it releases next year. Bloomberg first reported in February that Ubisoft was planning to release a smaller scale stealth-focused Assassin's Creed game that is closer to the early series entries than the more recent RPG influenced ones. It's so funny, just as a tangent, I was listening to the old episodes from February. I remember when this news broke halfway through a recording, and I saw the notification I added the news immediately. So if you go to like this Twitter from Reps Gaming that you can see in the article, he broke it down, and it is the breakdowns that I posted in our thing. So the things the YouTuber said was the final name would be Assassin's Creed Mirage, released in spring 2023 between April and June. The game will take place between 860 and 870 in Baghdad during the anarchy in Samara. We will play Basim and his youth as his thief until he arrived at the Hidden Ones. Multiple cities to explore, separated by a desert and rivers like the kingdom of AC1. The game will be a return to basics with strong inspiration from the first Assassin's Creed. Several RPG elements removed, no more dialogue choices, no gender choice obviously, and no more level system. The gameplay would be slightly different from that of Valhalla, less raw and with new animations. The Eagle Vision is back, but so is the Drone Bird. Basim will be able to use the String Dagger to eliminate his opponents. There will be a visions of Loki for how Loki manifested into Basim's body and consumed him, which I think that's a... Is that spoiler for Valhalla?
That is a spoiler, because I haven't seen that at all.
Yeah. And apparently, other details they found is that Ubisoft is secretly preparing the remake of AC1 based on Rift Mirage's work.
That kind of shocked me, honestly.
Yeah, they will reuse a large part of the assets, and AC1 remakes should be integrated into a season pass, which will also include DLC in Constantinople when Basim meets Sigurd, and it will be released a few months later. Ubisoft will unveil the future of Assassin's Creed on September 10 during Ubisoft Forward. That's a Saturday. So Jason Schreier quote tweeted this thing. He said, "A person familiar tells me parts of this new Assassin's Creed leak are true, such as the name and the other stuff Bloomberg has already reported, spring 2023, Baghdad back to AC basics, and other parts are not, the multiple cities one." So take a bunch of the things that Jonathan said in that big list as a grain of salt, but there's semi-confirmation from Jason Schreier. So what's your temperature for this Mirage?
Well, I do like more details about it. I like that they're more specific details, and I like that it's basically confirming a lot of the things that we had heard previously about all of this, because it's all stuff that we want. It's like a
smaller scale,
like a fan casting of your favorite movie, basically, where it's like, this is just checking all those boxes, similar AC1 stuff, smaller scope, little details, taking away a lot of the RPG mechanics. But then it's also like almost too good to be true in some ways, where it's like, well, what's that gonna be like?
Now we're in put up and shut up territory of like, we've been hearing so many leaks about this thing now. Classic Ubisoft, like they're such a leaky sheep usually. September 10th is so close. It's like literally next week. They gotta give us more detail. How is it gonna look? I like the idea of a stripped down non-RPG version of Assassin's Creed once again, because there's some fun you can have in that RPG style of Assassin's Creed, but with Valhalla report, like you've been playing Valhalla and you feel like you have a massive amount of game ahead of you. I'm planning on probably playing it after Last of Us Part 1 because I'm feeling like I'm getting close to finish Saints Row, and
there is probably a bit of a gap between Last of Us Part 1
and whatever comes next. We'll see that.
Gotham Knights, maybe, whatever.
No, Gotham Knights even further. I think there's more. We'll see the release calendar. Yeah. But it's like in that gap I may play it there because I always intended to play it there, but I just like the idea of something smaller and it feeling like it's responding to the criticism towards the people that like the old school. It will be good to go back to that. And an AC1 remake. It's like Assassin's Creed 1 is the only game right now that only Xbox people can play through backwards compatibility. If you're on, and I mentioned it to you, is like I'm playing it on Series S with the Xbox One X enhancements, and it running at, and it got a FPS boost and getting that resolution boost, and on top of that, it's like, man, this is so nice. It would be great if not only Xbox people could play the original game, because starting from the Ezio collection onwards, everything is like available modernly, with Syndicate broken on PS5.
Yeah, it's like with various levels of completion on that ability.
Exactly,
but it exists.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like finally more details. We're getting closer. We're getting close to again another showcase week. It feels like. I like that because it's gonna give us more meat after so much quietness.
There's a lot going on, and it's like, man, I gotta chill. Everybody, y'all keep throwing things at me lately.
Yeah, no, or more like give us all these announcements earlier instead of giving them all now. So, final story, Paul. This may be of interest for you. With you recently having finished a remake of this, Hangar 13 confirms new Mafia game. Says it's a few years away. The game is rumored to be a prequel by Jordan Middler from BGC. In an interview celebrating 20 years of the franchise, the company confirmed that they're working on a new entry in the open world crime franchise. I'm happy to confirm we've started work on an all-new Mafia project, said Hangar 13 General Manager Roman Haladik. While it's a few years away and we can't share anything more right now, we're really excited to keep working on this beloved franchise and to entertain our players with new stories. The game is rumored to be a prequel according to a Kotaku report from earlier in the year. The last entry in the series, Mafia 3, was released to mixed reviews in 2016. A Mafia Definitive Edition, the one that you recently beat, released, saw the original 2002 game remade for modern consoles in 2020. This news follows a tough year for Hangar 13, which saw studio head Hayden Blackman leave the studio and parent company 2K. So, also just fun fact, Hayden Blackman, he directed The Force Unleashed 1 and 2.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Just wanted to throw that, so. Huh. I feel Mafia is in this also Saints Row 2022 area of like that kind of not quite AAA but all close to AA, like open world game that has a lot of good stuff and a bunch of bad stuff in it.
Definitely. But I think what we've been talking about has never rung truer because lately I feel like because Mafia 3 was released and a lot of people really ragged on it for its visual glitches and some of its bugs, and I was saying how I feel like
those visual glitches were legendary, like the lighting completely being screwed up that you couldn't see anything, dust looking like you were in a hellscape, man,
disappearing. So it's like I feel like Saints Row for me personally has performed better than Mafia 3 did at the time, and Mafia 3 still received really good overall commercial success, and like mixed, mostly positive, especially now that the definitive editions come out.
Yeah, like I mean, like it has a 68. Mafia 3 has 68 on Metacritic, so in that yellow,
6 out of 10, which I think is not to its detriment at all. So then, like we've mentioned,
unless you only care about masterpieces, like we talked about.
Yeah, true. And then I revisited the original remake for the definitive edition. Fantastic experience once I sat down and played through that. I'm so happy. The stupid level of detail for all of the vehicles and walking around, the outfits and everything, it was just pristine.
Yeah, like Mafia 1 being like very open world light allowed it to put it like be so laser focused and given so many details. It's like that's something that I really appreciate about that first game.
And that was how the second game was as well. So they actually added a few things. I noticed there's a side quest system after you beat the game that lets you travel around to these phone places and you unlock new vehicles and stuff. And there's a whole mode that just lets you run around the world without like punishment. Basically, you can run around, blow stuff up, shoot stuff, drive stuff, and it's kind of interesting. You could just basically do whatever you want in the game and not have to worry about all the.
Yeah, the thing is that Mafia 3 is the only one of the 3 Mafia games that was an actual true open world game.
Yeah, because it added a whole lot of stuff, and I could see how, because people were complaining that there wasn't anything to do in the first and second game, so they added side things, listening to people. Unfortunately, they went a little bit too far,
because then they made the side stuff too important for the actual progression of that game, and that's what grinded it to a halt.
Into the story, like you couldn't play the story until you did.
It was the Assassin's Creed 1 problem of in order to do the story missions, you needed to do that side, like the side stuff of like go listen
help
to
different people. Gosh,
I
forgot that was a thing in the first game too.
That's what I found funny when I played Mafia 3 back in 2016 and be like, holy crap, this is like they took cues from like Assassin's Creed 1. That's like, I don't know if that's a good thing, especially because the story of Mafia 3 is legitimately great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's like it's so greatly written in the perspective of a black man.
Yeah,
it's like one of the few that does it so well. So that's why it's like, it's unfortunate. Like, I wish they could have patched it so you could just mainline it, because that's a story worth experiencing.
That would have been nice. Yeah. I agree for sure, because just like you said, it's really cool, and they put so much detail into the 1960s New Orleans that I was like, there's pictures that my grandparents had that look like screenshots from the game, and I love that. And I mean, I think I sent y'all a picture of like actual places that as I would drive by that were in the game. That
and Red Dead 2 have like those kind of places.
And I love those little details that they actually put the effort in. So,
what I do appreciate though is that remember that we talked about this like last November. You can see a couple paragraphs down here. Is like it was claimed in November that 2K had canceled a new title from Hangar 13, codenamed Bolt. The project had reportedly been developed in various forms since 2017. That was like that supposedly superhero game that was gonna be like a live service that they spent like 50 million on, and then they were like, nah. So I'm glad they survived, and they should have done this Mafia game much sooner.
Definitely.
Especially with how well it sold.
It's such a dead ringer, especially with just like put that kind of effort in, and people will reward you for it, I think.
So, all right, Paul. So that concludes the news for this lengthy news section for this week.
Seriously.
And now we're heading into the game releases for the week of September 4th to September 10th, because we're in the middle of September 2nd with Last of Us Part 1 releasing this Friday. Don't forget to send in the, you know what. The releases for that week, starting with Biomutant, coming the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S native version. Coming out on September 6th, Temtem, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC, also coming on September 6th. The Tomorrow Children Phoenix Edition, coming to PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 on September 6th. This is hilarious because 6 years ago, that's around the time the original Tomorrow Children came out. This is kind of like a redo of that game. Jack Moop, coming to PC on September 8th. Steel Rising, coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on September 8th. NBA 2K23 coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on September 9th. And for the Switch owners, Splatoon 3, September 9th. Get that out of the way so we can get our Direct.
Seriously. I'm shocked to know that I haven't heard of the Tomorrow Children, Jack Move, or Steel Rising. But I know Temtem is like a shockingly good Pokemon competition, and of course Biomutant I think I was excited for before it came out, and then it was like middling reviews and I cooled off on it, but I hope I can pick it up one day.
Biomutant arrangement
maybe, especially if it's on sale one day. Just like the creativity that you're allowed to create, like you're basically your Kung Fu Panda Cyberpunk OC, and then just have fun with it. So good for them, and I hope especially Temtem continues to give Pokemon some grief so they continue to actually
improve. And with that, Paul, we conclude this week's slightly more lengthier than the last couple weeks episode of the X Bottom. So where can people find you?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter, and every once in a while I've been featured by different developers commenting on things that I post here and there, or just posting art of the things that I'm working on. Where can they find you?
They can find me at A_Dorsegobi on Twitter, at Instagram at Alejandro 93. That's where I post the show. I have some of my written content at the criticalcorner.com. I just finally I'm done with the old Naughty Dog game, so I just need to write it now. So, and it's gonna be a lot. And I might, depending on when I finish Saints Row, maybe I'll do a review. We'll see. Or maybe even for Last of Us. I need to get back into the habit of writing.
You should revisit all of the Saints Row games and then write a review of the series.
Yeah, definitely. And
maybe just skip the first one. Don't even worry about that.
It's I might do that in another dry spell. The only reason I was able to do all this was because of the summer, but now we're heading into a different kind of season. But
yes,
I definitely need to write a little bit more, and then have to get into the habit of maybe wanting to do a video. I've never done a video review ever. I think I should.
You've talked about wanting to do it for a while, and it's always such a pain in the butt that I've never even bothered to try myself.
It's because of the having to capture because I would like to capture my own B-roll and all of that, so instead of having to like pick from other stuff, but we'll see. So, all right, Paul, it was a pleasure. We should play co-op Saints Row. Like, we should try it.
Yeah,
because we're around the same. We're around the same level.
Hoping we can make it work, because we tried and that wasn't working out for us.
Because it was the prologue, and we needed to like enter it from the very beginning in order to work. So.
Did we actually confirm that? Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was because we were sharing similar game licenses or something, but so hopefully that works
let's give it another shot. If not, then we know that's a problem. So
that's the one.
And everyone else, thank you so much for listening or watching the podcast. Stay safe, stay active, like stay healthy. The world is like still a crazy place, so be good, and remember,
press X
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta luego.